Brilliant. Um, so, Heather, we've come online today to have a discussion really about your efforts relating to kidney disease and renal support for young people, children and young people going through kidney disease sort of, I guess, nationally, throughout the UK. And KDARs, as I understand it, is an online support group, and I wanted to get an understanding really about yourselves, and what the group is all about. So maybe you can kick off and tell us a bit about yourself and what KDARs is.
Well, my name's Heather Davis. KDARs was founded initially by myself, and my husband encouraged it. So the idea was to have a support network for families that have children, babies, young toddlers, and young people living with chronic kidney disease and renal issues across the board. We found as a family that there was a massive gap in the market for this sort of support, and that's why we founded KDARs.
Okay. And in terms of when you mention sort of support, and the kind of, I guess, minority population that you're sort of looking after, what kind of support is it that you're providing? Because obviously, it's it sounds like a great effort that you're prompting, and what sort of support are you giving, and why? And you mentioned about sort of the so-called market that was that seemed to be having some gaps and things. What sort of support and gaps were you looking to fill?
We realised that there is a young NKF out there,
Mm-hmm.
but they were looking at 18 to 30s, which
Mm-hmm.
left the pediatric community off the scale, sort of thing. It wasn't there, it was non-existent. So what we did was we decided to see if there was any other families out there that were looking for similar support to ourselves. It's a really niche. It's really niche, and that there is only about 1,000 children, I believe,
Mm-hmm.
that are living with this.
Mm-hmm.
However, we haven't just stayed UK. It's kind of gone international as well.
Mm-hmm.
And there seems to be a slow and steady demand for the support that KDARs offers, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So what we do in a way of support, we offer advice and guidance, not
Mm-hmm.
medical advice, because none of us are experts.
Mm-hmm.
But if someone asks around a certain condition or a certain medical issue that they might come across, we have a strong support network that will say, "Oh, my little one's on that medication. This is what we've experienced." So, in that respect, we found that families do support each other in that way.
Okay. And so you obviously are doing fantastic work, and like you mentioned, you're not able to obviously provide medical advice and health health specific advice, if that makes sense, but you're obviously providing I guess an online space where parents, guardians, and I suppose children or young people with guidance of, whoever's looking after them, uh, have a sort of space to share and discuss, their care needs, or those experiences. So I wanted to sort of ask, do you think there's a growing evidence, that this sort of support is needed, uh, because of the types of, sort of kidney diseases that are out there for that relate to young people and children? Do you think that's something that's important? And if it is important, how come, in your view, do you think that the health professionals themselves haven't sort of looked into that, or do you think they have looked into it and it's just not come across very well?
It's definitely important. Um, just from reading a comment that came up today,
Mm-hmm.
um, children are certainly at this particular time with everything that's going on across the country.
Mm,
Someone asked if someone played a certain game on the internet
mm,
because the children are fed up and feeling very isolated.
mm,
And the response from that was it was humbling.
mm,
That's the word. It was humbling. Many other families posted saying, yes, my kid plays that game. Would love to put them in touch and make friends that way. And on that basis, that the children are able to talk to their peers
yeah.
that are going through a similar journey.
Mm-hmm.
That's opened up a lot of avenues, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Um, when it comes to kidney disease in children, we find that a lot of the children only get to see each other at hospital appointments, if
Mm-hmm.
that's even possible.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Yet so much more could be done.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Children have the opportunity to mingle outside the medical environment, and that could be explored by many different sectors.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
Absolutely. I think, from what you're saying, I mean, not only, um, forgive my, ignorance in some way, but if from what I'm understanding, not only are you providing, sort of support for, a sort of minority, population, i.e., children and young people from ages, 0 or 0, neonate to 17 or 18, but you're also, it sounds to me, supporting, young people and children who are, um, sort of, have a long-term condition, or will be known to have a long-term condition, which is also not very well known anyway. So that's two things, that are sort of already against, this, children who are and young people suffering with this disease. Am I correct to say that?
Absolutely, yeah. You're spot on, Shahid. There, there has, there is very little awareness around CKD, around kidney disease, around renal issues in general, and it's not well known. It's known as the silent killer
Mm,
because no one talks about kidney disease
mm,
or what it entails. Um, so not only are we raising awareness of chronic kidney disease and renal issues, we are opening a window to young people, and they've now got a sounding board, for want of a better word. They've
mm,
got somewhere that they can come, that their parents, carers, guardians can come and talk openly without the fear of being judged,
mm,
which I've come across on a few Facebook pages
mm,
that's supposed to be supportive. And there isn't that judgment there. I don't know if you're a
mm,
part of KDARs or if you watch what goes on, but there is very, very little backbiting, if you
mm,
like.
mm,
And I think that brings a whole new perspective to what we're doing. It makes it a very welcoming group, like
mm,
like the renal patient support group that
mm,
you yourself co-founded. Um, and we know that actually makes a difference to people coming to us.
mm, mm.
Um, and so, yeah, we do feel that it's important that this is the awareness around chronic kidney disease is highlighted, and it's about breaking down barriers and changing perceptions.
Yes, I think that's absolutely, wonderful that you've got this, sort of initiative, and it seems that peer support, I guess, can be understood in different ways as well. So I think this is really, really good. I wanted to sort of pick up on something that kind of encourage me to get a bit more understanding about how those who are not only sort of running support groups or peer support groups or online support groups, or also have a great passion to do more, for those that they are supporting. But it seems that evidence for this sort of work is, or these kinds of initiatives, is not only needed, especially in times like these where, there's this sort of epidemic at the moment, unfortunately, about, the COVID-19, virus, which is sort of a problem for those who are either very young and also very old or older, and uh, that and obviously those who are vulnerable. So these kinds of support groups seem to be places or safe spaces, as you mentioned, um, uh, where they can sort of have their experience shared. But I've come across something about the fact that it seems that evidence around these is developing, at least from one or a couple of perspectives. And I just wanted to get your thoughts around, a couple of these points that I mentioned. Um, so, general sort of components that are being found to work well to support those who going through challenging circumstances is that it can, around online spaces, is that it can, it's about involving people in sort of decision making, or sharing experiences, just like you mentioned, um, and emphasizing how certain problems can be solved. Um, Decisions around certain sort of care plans, um, around sort of what's being, um, how health professionals, for example, might uh, sort of prompt a patient's care or scenario, and if that's discussed in a safe space, do you think that's important? Can that help um, uh, patients and carers going through, or parents or guardians, does that help them, uh, that experience and that sharing, does that help them take what they have in that safe space to their actual circumstances outside, when they go to appointments? Is that important?
It is important, and I hope that does actually happen.
Mm,
I'd like to think that it does. I know I spoke to my own Lily's own consultant regarding KDARs and the work that we do, um, I have sent information around KDARs to various hospitals across the UK.
Mm.
I've only actually heard back from one hospital, and that
Oh
was
wow.
Bristol.
Okay.
And that was really quite disappointing overall, that, you know, that the word isn't getting out there. Or if it is getting out there, we don't know.
Mm.
I do know that some of our parents do talk to their consultants about what we offer, about the work that KDARS does.
Mm.
But and I know that, you know, word of mouth is sometimes better than anything else.
Mm.
But, you know, obviously when I sent all that information out to various UK hospitals, I couldn't help but be disheartened by the lack of response, if
Mm.
you like.
Mm.
Um, and I was grateful to hear back from Bristol. You know, that was amazing. Um, I'd like to think that what we do is taken back to the experts, that, you know, that
Mm.
this service is available to families.
So almost
It's
like a
important, is it?
yeah, yeah, support is definitely you know, one thing, and then peer support is another thing, I guess. But also the fact that, like you just mentioned, you know, the kind of predicament or circumstance you were facing, and maybe some of your other members have been facing. Do you think these kinds of initiatives should be signposted then? You know, if the professionals, for example, know about that, know about it.
Yes, yes. Is it a phone?
It's okay.
Okay. Yeah, it's about, like I said, it's about breaking the barriers, breaking down perceptions, and I do feel that the hospitals could offer more information, more,
Yeah.
you
So
know, the isolation that comes with this. It
yeah.
is very isolating. It's individual journey, and I appreciate that every case is different.
Mm.
Um, but I do feel that the isolation has a massive impact. Um, I honestly can't answer that, Shahid. I wish I could.
No,
I don't
but
know. I
I
don't know.
think what I think that's absolutely right. I mean, you know, the isolation is there, and it depends upon the journey, I guess, that an individual is taking as well. But I think also that that um, the fact that you know you've gone out of your way really to try and get other um, you know centers to sort of get involved in some way or other, and it seems that that you might not have had much positive response. That's kind of tear jerking in a way, because it really highlights that you know, obviously we have to respect and understand and appreciate the um, you know the role of the health professional and what they do, of course. But if if more if I guess centers know about what you're doing and how and the sort of off the support that you're offering, um, and this kind of you know what you're doing, and you are seen as a place, a go-to place for this population, that would surely be quite positive, because it's not, you know, it's a you know a support group for you know a niche, like you said in the beginning, a niche sort of age group, um and also a niche condition. So I think that's it's a little bit um, uh, it I guess it's a little bit painful in a way to hear that sort of story.
It's
But I also wanted,
disheartening.
yeah, yes, there is that. There is also some other things that I came across was about like setting goals and following up on sort of uh, when someone might need to speak to um, someone in the hospital again about a specific issue or circumstance. I think that, I guess that's quite important. It could be important. um, and also helping, how about like helping um, patients and uh, or at least helping the parents or the guardians to um, monitor, uh, the certain I don't know, certain tests and things like that. Do you get queries like that on your
Yeah,
support
yeah,
group as
we
well?
often get queries, particularly around DSMA, is it?
Okay,
Yeah, we get lots of queries around that. Um,
okay.
luckily, my consultant, or Lily's consultant, gave us a few information leaflets
Mm,
around that and around blood tests and things. I can then refer back to that.
mm,
Um, but we often get questions asked about blood results and
yeah,
what creatinine means and what urea means. Um, obviously, we give the broad answers. We don't we won't answer on
yeah,
what that means for that particular child, but we can give a broad opinion, um, certainly on what creatinine does, and what the stages of creatinine, and the EGFR,
mm.
the estimated glomerular filtration rate.
Filtration rate. Yes.
I think that's what it stands for. We're able to give, that sort of thing. We can tell them, give them the estimate and what the results roughly come back as, but we're never specific because each
Yeah,
child is different. We don't want to give out the wrong information,
of
but
course, of course.
but we do support each other in that way, and I find that's really, really helpful.
No, it's really fantastic. And another thing is, I mean, it seems to be quite important generally, I guess, no matter what stage or specific, kidney condition, a young person, or even a new, neonate or pediatric is sort of diagnosed with, you know, it, it seems to be quite important to help manage, or at least signpost in relating to the physical and emotional, and maybe even the social aspects of their journey. Does that come across through you know your support group as well?
Yes, it does. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, it does. We're able to share photographs. You know,
Mm,
when someone's got a problem with a wound or Mickey button, as they're called.
mm,
Um, those pictures will pop up every now and again, and I know when we lost a couple of babies early part of last year, that
mm.
we lost a 25-hour-old baby,
Oh wow.
and we lost another baby that was only stayed on the earth for 12 hours. Both of them situations obviously upset us all, and I grieve for them families
Mm,
because it was very close to home. What I did do as offer support was I sent a parcel through the post with a card and a teddy bear
Mm.
from KDARs, just to let them families know that actually they are being thought about and we are here for them. And actually, I'm surprised, I'm pleased to say that one of the families is still with us. She popped up the other day when a new mum was fighting the same diagnosis that she got prenatally. And she was able to say, that happened to me. And
Mm.
unfortunately, I lost my little one. But if you ever need to talk, I'm here.
Mm.
I don't think I've seen that anywhere else. I honestly don't think I've seen that support anywhere else. And it was really quite heartwarming,
Mm.
but
Mm.
bittersweet as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
um, um, I'm proud of what KDARS does. I'm proud of the families that are there to support others.
No, it's
Yeah.
really fantastic. And what I also want to ask, you've been going on for about 5 or 6 years now, or you'll be 6 years old, I guess, in April 2020.
Yeah.
And you did have a sort of anniversary event planned, but we sort of had a sort of informal discussion about that, but. I wanted to ask also whether what other plans do you have for KDARs? You mean you've been doing fantastic work, and you set up the was it the pit stop
Yeah.
initiative
So
as well. So
yeah.
you know
So
tell us a bit about that. What's that all
right.
about?
So the pit stop was a little community cafe on our local park,
Okay.
um, and the idea behind that was to give um, local families that have got kidney disease somewhere
Mm.
to maybe meet up once a week, have coffee mornings, but it also put something into the community.
Right.
However, it didn't quite go to plan because no families turned up.
Right.
And we found that the young children from school came in for sweets and crisps and drinks instead. So we
Right.
opened it up as a little,
A
as a
pit stop.
little, just a pit stop for the
Yeah.
refreshments. But having said that, it's worked for the better of the community because we had a bunch of football fans come over on a Saturday afternoon and buy tea and coffee and they gave a donation to KDARs, and the work that we did, it was only a
Mm.
£5 donation, but that makes a whole lot of difference to our families. So in that respect, it's done pretty well.
No, it's fantastic.
But
So
because it's obviously seasonal work, it's pretty shut down at the moment. But
yeah.
yeah,
But I
yeah,
mean, I think, it sounds to me like you've gone from, something that you started, as a journey through an online space, and then now taking it, from an online space or bits of, the online space into, the physical, side of
I do
things, which
feel,
I think is good.
yeah, I do feel that face to face is sometimes better than
Yeah,
online.
yeah,
As much as online is great,
yeah.
I do feel that families are missing out on that time together.
Mm,
Certainly, children that don't have fellow kidney beans, as we call them,
mm,
um, um, it they haven't got that network, they haven't got that support network. Other children at school often don't know what's going on.
mm,
Certainly from my own experience with my own daughter, she won't tell anybody.
mm.
I think there's about two of us friends at school that know about her condition, and that's the way she likes to keep it.
Yes.
And that
Okay.
I feel then isolates her. Um,
Yes.
so yeah, I do feel that face to face is really, really important, and
Yeah.
um, I do hope that maybe the RFPG and ourselves can maybe look at getting another conference together this year. That would be really, really great if we could do that, if we could somehow pull that off. I know things are a bit up and down at the moment, not
Hmm.
knowing what's happening with the virus.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's certainly something we could look at. I know that the venue we used last year,
Mm,
and when we did that together, although it was a really poor turnout,
mm,
actually a lot people got a lot from that,
yeah.
and that's been encouraged by by John Ellis and his team,
Hmm.
and certainly by the trustees, that they'd like to see something like that happen again.
Yeah, so uh, obviously there's lots of things that you've been doing, in different ways, I guess, trying to raise that, you know, uh, not just the awareness, but kidney disease, profile, I guess, in terms of what the disease is, and generally, and how it affects different age groups and things like that. So it seems to be that different kinds of information and the way people receive it or are happy to get involved with, or engage with, that seems to be important. So you mentioned like leaflets, we talked about online peer support. There's the face to face, it can't easily be replaced. People still have a need for that, I guess. Because even though we're using technology a lot more, I guess, than we had been in the past, people still want the face to face, you know uh um meetups and things like that.
Yeah.
There's What are your thoughts on, like, sort of like um group educational sessions, and sort of.
I I think that would be really beneficial
Mm,
if something like that could be put in place.
mm,
Um, that's one of the reasons why I set up the pit stop, was to try and get like an awareness coffee morning together.
mm, mm.
I do feel that that would really benefit the renal community, not just the children, but the parents as well, the parents, carers, guardians. You know, I do feel that would be really, really helpful. How that's
Yeah,
implemented, I don't know.
yeah, no, absolutely. And I think there's lots of different ways that support works, isn't there? I mean, that's the bottom line here. I think, whether peer support, again, I guess it means different things to different people, but it's having, I guess, accessibility, to those who are going through similar circumstances, and also having access to, you know, uh, I guess, service providers, as well, in a timely fashion. And if those who are using your group sort of are having challenges and difficulties, it's trying to highlight why they're having those difficulties or challenges. Um, so certainly, um, it's important and interesting to hear what you had to say. What have been the main things that have improved, I'd like to ask, since you've pursued this sort of initiative? Have you seen any further changes, or things that have positively come out from doing this?
I, I'm going to bite my tongue now. um, in some respects, I've seen other organisations slowly take an interest.
Yeah.
Um, but
Yeah.
this is really hard. Yeah, it's a difficult one with that one.
No, no,
Um,
and it's there's no right. Obviously, there's no, there's no,
I
there's
have
no.
seen people take an interest. Let's put it
Yeah.
that way. I've seen people
Yes.
noting what we've been doing.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
I've had a couple of interesting phone calls over the last few weeks from people saying, "What is KDARs? I keep
Okay.
seeing your name. So would you like to tell me more about it and why it was set up?" So in that respect, yeah, we are finally getting noted. Um, this isn't about KDARs. This is about why wasn't this done sooner. That is my opinion.
No, no, it's very important. It's very important, and also um, the kind of things that I I would have hoped to seen a more of a appreciation of really is that not only are you doing fantastic work, but um, is sort of bridging that gap between sharing an understanding of experiences by those who are going through it, through the different conditions surrounding kidney disease, but also and those who are providing the clinical care for those patients with the disease. So I guess um, more awareness or understanding from those who are delivering the care for these young sufferers, that they should or could get to know more about what KDARs is and looks to be doing in the future. I think that's one thing that you know could be highlighted more, I think.
Yeah, yeah, it is. It could. The idea behind the event for
Yeah,
April was to reward our children,
yeah,
let them know that actually they weren't alone,
yeah,
because I think that's the biggest thing. Children think they're the only ones, and actually they're not the only ones that are going through this. And by celebrating our kids all in one day, they would have seen and met other families that are going through this, and hopefully made new friendships out of that.
yes,
That was my thoughts behind the ceremony.
yeah,
Um, the idea of medals and the certificates were to say, you've got this, you're doing brilliant, you are kicking butt.
mm,
And don't forget that. And that was the reason behind the medals and certificates.
yeah,
Um, I had invited a couple of pediatric renal teams
yeah,
across for the event. Um, Obviously, they couldn't commit, which is understandable. They're busy people, but
yeah,
maybe they could have sent somebody in their place, if that makes sense.
yeah,
Um, it's I feel like we're constantly battling the elements,
right,
and on many occasions I could have given up, but these families, these children, have somewhere to go right now
yeah,
that wasn't there before. And I do believe that we are making a small difference in their lives.
yeah,
As much as I get disheartened by things, I've got to keep going for their sake.
yes,
And that's why I
yes,
do it. That's why I do it, because they, where else is there for them? Who
yeah.
else is going to?
So
Who else is going to listen?
you're the passion and the drive behind the whole KDARS initiative, basically.
Yeah,
So, and you're looking after quite a large number of young people, um, and one of the other sort of additional sort of questions I wanted to ask, and certainly I think this is something that we're seeing more and more now than we probably were seeing in the last like five years to a decade at least, where getting these kinds of getting an understanding of how um, patients and carers, parents and guardians are um, not only sharing experiences and understanding, but also how they are kind of using that understanding, to overall help themselves, and their children's and their, their loved ones, obviously. navigate healthcare generally, that
Yeah.
seems to be more important now than than previous, periods. And on that note, we even, I guess, could say in some to some extent that once you've got that sort of understanding or appreciation, um, it can help sort of um, streamline, if that's the right word, or
Yeah.
can actually help you know the professionals and those who are providing health service get a real understanding of what actual care is needed. So really you're providing that sort of space where I guess health professionals should be on online as well, really, to understand how they could deliver better care. Would that be right to say?
Yes, it would. How wonderful would it be if we had a consultant or a nephrologist pop up every now and again and
Mm,
put a couple of maybe the families, give them some reassurance. Um, how wonderful would that be?
mm,
You know,
mm,
for them to pop up on a group and say, actually, we are here and we are listening, we are taking notes.
mm.
Um, I do believe we have one doctor from South Africa on the group.
Oh wow, amazing.
Um, he's a paediatric nephrologist. I do believe he's in South Africa.
Mm,
I could be wrong, um, but he often pops on and shares events that he's putting together.
mm.
But obviously, that's not practical to jump over to South
Yeah,
Africa.
yeah, of course.
But it'd be nice to maybe see him comment every now and again. Maybe to obviously things are different in South Africa,
Mm,
but to maybe offer a little bit of general support or general advice, that would be amazing. If he, if they'll do that, if somebody would actually do that, it'd be great.
yeah. So I
I
mean,
think
obviously,
that's what we need.
yeah. So I mean, obviously, you've got all kinds of professionals. I mean, in children and young people services, you've got those who are like school teachers, and
Yeah,
even those who
we have.
offer play services, I guess, as well, or
Yeah,
play care, whilst a young one or a child is actually in in the hospital setting, for example. um,
yeah,
and there's lots of things around um, supporting patients, carers, and guardians with the right tools, really, to so that they
mm,
can help inform their decision making, and that seems to be more important now as well. um, one real final question, I guess, from my perspective, is basically, um, you've come a long way in actually quite a short time, and you're carrying on this fantastic work, and you hopefully will seek to reorganize the event that you're planning for April 2020, for another time. But um, obviously, where a sort of research is concerned, obviously there's ways and means to get young people involved, and parents and guardians involved. Do you think that sort of way of partnering or co-producing research with health professionals, can that be helpful to also increase the awareness around kidney disease as well?
simple answer, yes. Yes, yeah, it would absolutely. Um, you know, um,
So it means that there's a lot of there's a lot that you could be doing, or could be happening, sorry, you know that
I've got lots of ideas
between.
and no way, with no way of implementing them.
No, that's yeah. There's always that, but it seems quite obvious that co-producing or co-creating and or what I think is called partnership working, um,
Yeah.
that sort of can help quite a lot. So no, that's really fantastic. So any final thoughts? What else you
Yeah.
think it could be?
Yeah. I would just like to pick up on what you said
Yeah,
a few minutes ago about um, doctors and things being on the group and
yeah.
having more teachers and things. I would just like to point out we have actually got two
Mm.
vicars on the group because I
Oh,
felt
really?
that my both from St John's, John Ellis is on the group.
Okay.
I feel that pastoral care can sometimes help as well. You
Yeah.
know, if you've got people of faith, and I know we've got a few of other different faiths on the group,
Mm.
um, which is amazing because we are diverse. We have
Yes.
got we've now got, oh gosh, how many endless countries. I think last count was about 38 countries globally.
Wow. Okay.
Um, and we have a family in the Philippines that are very high in faith, and they often send me stuff in a private message.
Okay.
Um, and I do feel that also sometimes helps families, you know, if they ask for prayers and things. I don't put that on the group. I don't let other people know that they're there, but they are actually there in the background, and picking up on things. And John often picks them up and puts them in his prayer book. So that's
Really.
really, really good too. Yeah, it's
No, it's
brilliant.
really fantastic. No, it is. So
It's good, isn't it?
it is. It really is. And I just wanted to actually relating exactly to that point is that it seems that um, there are some issues or concerns that still need more attention. So it's like changing, behaviors,
Yeah,
or understanding the behaviors of, those who require care, but also those who provide care, if that makes sense,
yes,
and also, um, you know, supported, having the access or involvement, through online spaces, really, I guess, because of, I guess, there's time constraints in the physical environment nowadays, but obviously having access to health professionals or health providers, um, depending on the circumstances that the young person is going through, or the parent or guardian is going through. So um do you think, would you agree with that being something that needs to be appreciated more, really, having
yeah,
information effectively um available and considered depending on the issue or circumstance, that the young person is going through.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Um, it's the young people that haven't got a voice,
Mm,
and if you go back to the 2014 conference in Blackpool that I attended, and
mm,
I did a speech on that, you'll find that on YouTube.
mm-hmm.
I said then that education is the way forward. Um, and my speech was quite passionate then, and I feel just as passionate today about the points that I said back then. Excuse me, sorry. Um, yeah, it's really beneficial. It would be really, really helpful to have something like that implemented.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Okay, no, thanks for that, Heather. I'm just gonna